Welcome, councillors, officers and members of the public to this meeting of the council. Please can I ask you to switch your mobile phones to silent? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. A reminder for councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear proceedings and people in the room. And for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you speak loudly and clearly. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to councillors by their first names. When addressing council, please stand if you are able to do so. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore upon hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building by your nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the top of the top car park. Please be aware that the contents displayed on your iPad or laptop may be seen by others or members of the public attending the meeting. Therefore, please close down screens which are displaying confidential information during the public part of the meeting, which for this meeting is the whole meeting. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, received apologies from councillors Biederman, Davies, Rutty, Williams, Bishop and Spear, Chair.
Item 2, business brought forward by or with consent of the chair. I do have an item for this one. It's to consider the following recommendation: that councillors who represent town or parish councils and or the county council and which use the trade waste service be granted a standing dispensation. Such dispensation will be limited to allow them to take part in the deliberation and vote on the matter of the future service provision of the council's trade waste and recycling service at full council and or strategy and resources committee, despite having a prejudicial other registrable interest as town, parish and or county councillors at town and parish council which contract with the district council for this service. This is on the basis and in accordance with section 33(2)(c) and (e) of the Localism Act 2011. Such dispensation is in the interests of persons living in the authority's area and is appropriate. Can I have a mover? Councillor Caroline Lever, a seconder, Councillor Matthew Bushell. Thank you. Please could any councillors who are affected leave the room. I don't know if you are affected. Councillor Walton just wants to say something to clarify his position.
I'm not leaving the room because South Molton has been using the service, but has got another provider at the same sort of price. So they've already decided to move, and we've also set our precept, and we haven't put that up either. So I'm, in my opinion, I've not really got an interest, and that also applies to Councillor Bushell.
Councillor Bushell, do you want to be considered under the same?
We've signed a contract, so
Yeah, no, so
there is no declarable interest.
yes, so you want to say you do not have a declarable interest, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so can I have a mover, please? And so moved by Councillor Norman, seconded by Councillor Howard Fu. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. That is carried. Yep.
We approve them one by one, I think. Cherry pick the best one. So, Like your one. Sorry. It's still 4K. So
Okay, item 3, declaration of interest.
Yeah, thanks very much. I thought I probably ought to make members aware, because I'm a member of the Strategy and Resources Committee, where I declared an interest because my business is a trade waste customer of North Devon Trade Waste Services. Also, I didn't take part in the deliberation or the debate or voting when it came to strategy and resources. Since the last strategy and resources meeting, my business has ceased to trade, so I will no longer be a customer of North Devon Trade Waste Services. So on that basis, and having talked to the monitoring officer, I'm speaking on behalf of Caroline Lever as my wife as well, that they've got no longer any financial interest, personal interest in the outcome of the vote today. So for that reason, I'm taking part in it.
Thank you. As indeed the Honourable Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Margaret.
Yeah, my business was a customer of Trade Waste, but I've signed another contract now and have moved. My interests are the same.
Item 4, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B, which is confidential restricted information. There is no Part B. Item 5, trade waste and recycling services. To receive the petition submitted by Ollie Seymour regarding the North Devon Trade Waste Service, which is attached to your agendas. A copy of the report by the Works and Recycling Manager regarding the Trade Waste Service review that was considered by the Strategy and Resources Committee held on the 5th of January 2026. We need to seek a mover and seconder to waive the council procedure rules in the Constitution to allow an additional 3 members of the public who are representing businesses to be permitted to speak for up to 5 minutes, and that the council's debate on the petition be extended from 30 minutes to a maximum of 1 hour. I have a mover, Councillor Jones, and seconder, Councillor Orange. Thank you. All in favour?
Yeah.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. So can I invite Ollie Seymour to come and speak?
You happy to stay here or?
I know, could you come up here?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ollie Seymour, and I'm a highly concerned constituent and restaurant owner from Braunton. I want to thank the 1,600 plus local names that signed the petition allowing the opportunity to live at the meeting. This illustrates a strong local response to the decision made by the Strategy and Resource Committee on the 5th of January, thus necessitating this urgent debate to consider reinstatement of the trade waste and recycling collection service. On the 5th of January 2026, the committee voted by a casting vote to discontinue the trade waste and recycling service. The decision directly impacts approximately 1,800 local businesses representing 35%, around 35% of all businesses in North Devon, indirectly impacting thousands of employees whose livelihoods depend on the stability of local commercial operations. I'd like to take this opportunity to support and passion of Councillor Peter Jones, whose motion to refer the matter back to committee for further discussion was died by 1817. Such a narrow division clearly demonstrates that this is not a settled issue or on urgent reconsideration, which I will thank you for that. Whilst it is acknowledged that the trade waste service is not operating at a loss, consultation limited to just 1% of users, so overwhelming overwhelming willingness from service users to absorb the proposed 25% price increase to retain the service. Despite this, the proposal was rejected, which was highly disappointing. The petition raises several critical concerns under the Environmental Protection Act and Waste Regulations 27 statutory guidance. 1. Business interruption at a time when local enterprises urgently need stability and support. 2. The creation of near monopoly private operators, many of whom have indicated that prices will rise substantially. Early analysis of annual waste collection of any businesses will increase by at least 75%, a burden that many will struggle to absorb. This will increase furthermore for those businesses that have a small business rate relief applied. They've calculated that this may cost an additional £20,000 per families hospitality businesses. This amount constitutes the difference between taking on additional staff or not. Number 3. Capacity concerns regarding whether alternative providers can take on such large volume of new customers in a single tranche. Number 4. Uncertainty over whether these firms can match the regularity, reliability, and seasonal responsiveness previously provided by the council, particularly for a peak summer month whereby our large geographical area swells in population. Number 5. Rural businesses may find themselves without any viable provider at all. Number 6. Risk of environmental and public health issues, including increased fly tipping, sanitation concerns, if collections fail or become irregular. 7. The unresolved question: what will happen to the thousands of council trade wasted in circulation? Number 8. The potential for avoidable job losses within the trade waste scheme. In addition, many schools, academies, council-run facilities, and public institutions rely on the trade waste service. If forced to change provider will place further strain on already stretched budget, ultimately passing an additional cost for local taxpayers, parents, and service users. Reference to the department trading at a loss in the following comments. 1. It's my understanding that the department was refusing new customers due to demand. My business, we have that problem. I wouldn't just shut and I'd say, bloody hell, how lucky are we to have that demand? We would find a solution to accommodate that. Closure just seems the easiest way out. 2. The price increases raised by the council over previous years have not been in keeping with other trade waste suppliers, given the vast disparity we now find ourselves at. Number 3, and be testament to this, the invoices and bills sent to our business in just as an example, were sporadic and not accurate. A better accounting system would have ensured that losses the department was making would have been picked up earlier and prices amended accordingly. Beyond these operational and financial concerns, there are broader statutory and governance considerations. Number 1, the council has a duty to support economic growth, protect employment, and promote local resilience. Moving a service used by 1,800 businesses without a viable transition conflicts with these responsibilities. Number 2, a consultation with only 1% engagement raises legitimate questions about whether the process met public law standards of fairness and proportionality. Number 3, the decision carries reputational risk for the council if the consequences, which include price hikes, service failures, environmental issues, materialise. Number 4, the council must consider its environmental and public health obligations, particularly regarding waste management and fly tipping prevention. Number 5, rural and isolated communities may be disproportionately affected, raising equality and non-rural impact considerations. So what are over 1,600 constituents requesting? We respectfully request that the council, 1, reconsider the Strategy and Resources Committee's decision to abolish this service. And number 2, reinstate the trade waste and recycling service in full on a commercial basis, ensuring financial sustainability by protecting the thousands of local users who depend on it. This issue is not simply an operational adjustment. It is a matter of safeguarding local businesses, protecting public services, preserving employment, and maintaining the environmental integrity of North Devon. Councillors, North Devon is not like anywhere else. Our challenges are different, our pressures are different, and our needs are different. I urge you to recognize that reality and reconsider this decision. Keep this service is not just a practical choice, it is a responsible choice for our economy, our environment, and our community. Thank you for your consideration of this urgent and consequential matter. I look forward to listening to your debate and hope that common sense recommendations prevail. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to apologise in advance if I say your name wrong. Could I have Chudorol Vintilla?
Thank you.
Pronounce my name very well. Thank you. Like I say, I'm also a restaurateur from Bronton. I've been a customer of the council's trade for 10 years, and I want to say thank you. The service is a very good service. We never had any problems with the service. We never missed any collections. Unlikely, when we moved from our trade center to recycling, and we went to a private contractor, we had missed collections, had lots of problems and lots of issues. The problem is if we have this in the summer with our trade waste and our how is supposed to do those? We're supposed to deposit such amount of if they miss a collection. They're confused already. I'm sorry, we'll do it next week. We cannot do that with our trade waste, especially in the summer. When we got, like Polly said, the population doubling, a lot of us, when we're supposed to be a hazard, when I'm supposed to keep 10 sacks of general waste, if the private contractor is missing that. We never had this problem with the council. Like Polly said, we accept increases in our bills, and we are happy to pay an increase if it's necessary. But I think the service needs to continue because it's in the environment. And we can, I mean, lock. Sorry. Without if you got the issue with your food collections or your water collections, it's been missed so many times. Never had a problem with the council, with our general. And my concern is what's going to happen if this continue with the service. Okay, we signed to a private one. What will happen if my collection is missed 1 week and I'm left with 10 sacks of what we're supposed to do with that? And we've never had this problem with the council. So my only concern is, okay, we're going to move to a private, but who is regulating and who is going to control if those things are missing? And then I've been told by I went to two private ones, and my bill is increasing by £800 a year. And I call it it's a massive strain on our such fragile, restaurants. We can do all the help we need. I'm sure our business rates are going to go up because that's things, but there are some things which we can do it, and we need a bit of support from the council. That's, I think, my opinion. Everybody feels the same. And then, yeah, we're happy to take an increase if it's necessary. But, and again, the consultation, I don't know if it's probably just small business, but I never had any letters in the business saying then this is the option, what we can do. We are happy to have a bit more, or we never got anything. Just this is a bit. So yeah, I think that's my point. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but that's my point. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
David Hughes to come up and speak, please.
Good evening. Hello. David Hughes from Watermouth Valley Camping Park near Ilfracombe. My statement's not going to be as extensive or as in depth as Ollie's, but I'd just like to have a few moments of your time. So we're a family business, having owned and run Watermouth Valley Camping Park near Ilfracombe for 33 years. We can absolutely confirm that the service we have received from North Devon Trade Waste Services has been first class, punctual, efficient and courteous, from both the collection teams and those staff at the office. Watermouth Valley has been awarded Best Campsite in the Southwest and indeed the whole of the UK in both 2023 and 2025. North Devon Trade Services Waste Services have a part to play in those awards by providing an efficient and very reliable service for our customers. As you can imagine, we generate an awful lot of waste, having hundreds of campers and people stay with us each season. So thank you. Finally, as business owners, we are prepared to pay more for the council to continue to provide this service hopefully thereby making it financially viable in 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
If you'd like to come and speak, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Paul Owen. We've got a small static holiday caravan site out at Walkley, all self-catering. I was totally shocked to receive the letter to say trade waste was stopping. We've been using you as a supplier for decades. Generally, everything gets collected regularly. If it hasn't been collected, they're very quick to rectify it and come and collect the waste. I've been asked businesses to pay a lot more, and it would be a lot more. The problem with this is that we know that many customers would prefer one organisation to collect all three, i.e. trade waste, recycling and food waste. If we only collect one, i.e. trade waste, then many businesses will inevitably look elsewhere for alternative providers that can do all three. We would lose more customers. We cannot predict how many. It really would be kicking the can further down the road, something that we've been doing for too long. There is, however, room for compromise. And this covers the gentleman who spoke last, I've forgotten your name, sorry, mentioned Schedule 2 collections. These are customers such as small-scale holiday accommodation, Airbnb, charities and similar small businesses whose waste is in effect domestic waste and can be collected on the domestic rounds. About half of our customers are currently Schedule 2 collections, and of these, 82% of them have their waste collected on the domestic rounds. And therefore, I think a workable solution to this can be found that allows that aspect of the trade waste to continue. So I therefore propose the council adopts the following motion. And I'm going to just read this through with the council recognises that it cannot continue to run a loss-making trade waste and recycling collection service subsidised by ordinary council taxpayers. It also recognises that the changes brought in by government as part of the simpler recycling, that's ironic, simpler recycling rules will make the service even more unviable. At the same time, council understands the pressures faced, for example, by charities and small-scale holiday accommodation providers. Council therefore recommends that Strategy and Resources Committee look again at the viability in continuing to provide a trade waste collection service to these and other Schedule 2 customers on a full cost recovery basis as a minimum. In other words, absolutely no subsidy in the future from local council taxpayers who themselves are angry at doing that. So that is what I am proposing. It is a compromise. It's not going to be happy times for everybody. I expect, I know that's the case. I repeat, it was a very difficult decision and not one that was taken lightly, I can tell you. But we are prepared to look at this particular aspect. And I hope that you agree that that is a compromise worth considering. So thank you again. I know some of you will not agree with what I've said, but the most important thing is for us to recognise that it is not a statutory service, and there are many councils like ourselves who've already taken this step, and we've got to provide the best value for our council taxpayers. So thank you for your time anyway.
Councillor Lane, did I see your hand go up? Yeah, okay, so.
Can I ask a couple of questions for clarity, please, through my.
Oh, can we have a seconder for the motion first, please? Councillor Tops. Yeah, got a seconder, so. Okay.
Can you just clarify, how many companies? How many
Sorry, I can't hear.
Yeah.
You only have one.
Yeah, sorry, can we use the mic, please?
It's possible.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you just clarify how many companies update are paying into a provider, please? You know, moving to stopping the service. How many have actually moved to a different provider? And can you just clarify the legality regarding the Schedule 2 in when we've actually got to pick it up legally, which would help a lot of people really.
The officers will say something about this in a minute, but I can say that there are at the moment 1,500 customers. I think about half of those are on the Schedule 2. We organised a broker who could be helping us organise for some of the businesses and point of contact. And I know we've had hundreds of people, hundreds of businesses who have already looked into that. And for example, South Molton Parish Council have already found an alternative provider and not paying any extra money. And I think that would be the case for many. I've seen on social media one organisation that's advertising, North Devon is ending the trade and recycling. I can't remember the name of it. Service. The company, I can't remember the name of the company. That's it. And there are others. So there are definitely private companies out there, even down to the small one man, one woman in a van that's available from the more rural areas. So there is capacity out there. Not everywhere. Not everywhere. Well, the officers might be able to give me more everywhere up-to-date figures. Not everywhere. They're doing Torridge.
So can I have Councillor Crabb next, please? And could we, right, could you just hold on 1 minute, please?
Yeah, hi. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Can you stand up?
Yeah, my name is Mark Lentel. I'm the head of environmental enhancement, so I oversee the waste and recycling department. So in answer to the question, how many businesses have actually cancelled? We've had 20 have actually written and given us information that they've now got another supplier. Southwest Metals are in discussion with 300 of our customers, but I think they are probably waiting at the moment to see how tonight goes before they make any commitments. And then we've got another business waste broker, another 50 or so customers that they're trying to help at the moment get an alternative contract.
Speak out.
Councillor Crabb.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Just to address the Schedule 2. Schedule 2 waste is classified as either household waste, commercial waste, or industrial waste, depending on its place of production, nature, or the activity producing it. So the control waste regulations 2012, which were referred to earlier, provides detailed classifications of waste types, including Schedule 2 waste, and specify the circumstances under which waste is treated as household, commercial, or industrial waste. So Schedule 2 waste is generally treated as household waste under the Environmental Protection Act 1990, Section 75(5), which defines household waste as waste from domestic properties, caravans, residential homes, hospitals, schools, and other similar properties. However, the Controlled Waste Regulations 2012 further specify that certain types of household waste may be treated as commercial waste for the purpose of charging for disposal. For example, waste from domestic properties used for business purposes such as self-catering accommodation, or waste from premises occupied by charities for non-public purposes may be classified as commercial waste. And then when it comes to commercial waste itself, there isn't a So the election of commercial waste, there isn't a specific duty to a general duty to collect it. It's so the Environmental Protection Act provides that on request that there can be a duty, but it isn't one that the so it allows for the council to be able to find other means of that collection by contracting out or alternative means. So I suppose the short answer is that there isn't a generic duty on the council to collect commercial waste. So Schedule 2 waste counts as commercial waste, which is what I believe is being covered by this motion.
That helps. Thank you very much, for that, Chairman. Thank you.
If Councillor Maskell's next, can we swap?
Yeah.
So I'm afraid I do disagree on this occasion. I believe that we have a duty to facilitate a thriving economy by removing our trade waste service, removing competition, and leaving businesses vulnerable to price rises at a time when they're struggling anyway. If we take hospitality as an example, about £30 billion goes into the UK economy from hospitality. The tax burden is already disproportionately high for hospitality. In the last year, 90,000 jobs have been lost from that sector. Together with the rise in employees' national insurance contributions and business rates rising by £318 million for the hospitality industry, this equates to a rise of 76% for pubs and 115% for hotels. And this is predicted to lead to a loss of 2,000 hospitality businesses in 2026. That's UK hospitality figures. Surely, as a council, we can make this work to support our local economy and support our businesses who are our lifeblood. Therefore, I would like to propose a motion, an alternative motion, that council asks S&R to review their decision in light of updated pricing information, and that council asks S&R to consider retaining the service for a minimum of 12 months based on a new charging structure that would at least be cost neutral to the council, and that we have a regular lead member report on the finances and progresses of these improvements. Thank you.
Need a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Whitehead, seconder.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming
tonight. And you know, it's we are where we are. Unfortunately, we've been round a few times.
I'll be very, very brief.
Which will be a change for me. I'm sure you'll be glad.
The only point I make
is Councillor Clayton has raised the issue, and he's
absolutely right. It is no way
is it right that Boris up Oxford Road is paying to subsidise all these business with a great spending.
The decision at S&R was
made on the back
on the basis that increases about 25%. This would be unsustainable, and all our customers would run out the door when you got this 25% increase. I've conducted a survey slightly larger than the one that NDC conducted. Most people I've speaking to genuinely are facing increases. I know you said Safehold and Council, they must have got an absolute winner there. It's between 80 and 100% is what people are being quoted, seriously being quoted, an uplift. And there's loads of things. Our prices could rise considerably. And I'm not saying we rob anybody, but if it's 25% to break even, you think you might lose a few customers, you might be facing 30%, 33%, whatever it takes. You cannot have Boris subsidising the way. I fully agree with that. We've got to go for whatever percentage you think will work. It has to work. I think you'll find that you just have to get this right. And if you do this thing which happens,
then you're going to pick up somebody next door.
You might as well do it for 12 months. And where we've gone with this is an issue with it, the fact that there's been an issue with having been following what's been going on, which is why I think part of Drew's motion that Julie reports regularly what's going on.
Please use councillors' full names.
Oh, sorry. So the Councillor Hunt reports to council what's going on. Is she happy with the way it's going? Is there a problem? And then that way we can nip stuff in the bud before it gets to this point. So I fully support this motion. Fully support Councillor Maskell's motion. I think it makes sense. And bear in mind for the businesses, this is 12 months. So we've got 12 months to get it right. And if we can see it's going in the wrong direction, really, Councillor Hunter reports aren't good, then we've got at least time to organise. So my fear is, I'm sure that you might agree with it, is that if we take a big player out of the marketplace, you know, £1.5 million turnover marketplace, we might get a few people that's quite reasonable now, but temptation is going to be, and if I had a bin lorry, I'd be the same. I'd ramp it up. I'm sure anybody else would have a bin lorry. Thanks.
Sorry, Chair. Could kindly put Councillor Crabbe or Maskell's motion up on the screen to go with the other one? My memory doesn't work well enough.
We don't have it written down.
Could we possibly get it up? Or have it repeated every so often so I can see it?
Point order, Chair.
You can have one motion at a time. You can't have two motions. No, it's on the amendment. I meant the amendment.
But we're allowing debate before a decision is made. Sorry, Councillor Howard Booth.
I think I can project okay. It's a very short question. There's a sort of disconnect in my mind between the fact that there's a very good service and the van is broken down, the lorry is broken down all the time. Can we just have a bit of explanation, please? Thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, thanks very much for all the positive comments about the service. By the way, that's meant a great deal to our team. So thank you for that. It's much appreciated. In answer to the question, the lorry that is breaking down fairly regularly, it is back on the road now. It's quite a specialist vehicle, and it's coming to the end of its life. So and that's really what prompted this report earlier on in the year. Really was that we recognised that we needed to replace it. It's quite an expensive item, as you can imagine, so we needed to put in a capital bid for the lorry. So if we're going to continue with trade waste, we would have to replace that vehicle. There is I think an 18-month lead-in on that vehicle, because we have to have it's a bespoke vehicle that we have to have made up by the manufacturer. In the interim, whilst we waited for that, if we were going to carry on with the full trade service, we would have to hire in a couple of vehicles called split loaders, slightly smaller lorries, but they could do the job of the one big lorry, but we would need an extra crew, because obviously it's two lorries as opposed to one. So really the reason we raised the issue with it is it's an old vehicle. We are now leasing all of our vehicles, so we've replaced quite a few of our old ones, and now all of our vehicles are new, and our breakdown rate is a lot less than it has been. That's on the domestic side. With trade, that's our one vehicle that causes us issues. So we've raised it and said that we need a new one if we're going to carry on.
Thank you. Councillor Prowse.
Chair, can I think I can project myself as well, hopefully. Chair, I'm trying to be consistent along this, and back at the strategy committee back in January, looking through the papers that we were given, the financial strain was because of trying to continue with the recycling service rather than the waste service. And at the strategy committee, I moved that we actually continue just with the waste service. I think the problem, and I accept that the Schedule 2 stuff is relatively easy for us to continue to do, but I think there are other small businesses that could be considered still to be within the scheme for us, around, particularly in the rural areas where there are very few other options. Yeah. And so this proposal at the end, I support the principle of looking at this again, and I welcome it. And it was only on the casting vote of the leader that we lost this strategy. But I think that we should look broader, just at the waste side. And I accept that continuing to try to provide a recycling service and is probably we've probably lost too many customers already, or they're on their way. But I think to continue with the actual waste is something that we should look wider than the motion, so that I could then support it. So I'm being consistent, and recalling that table, it would be quite easy to keep viable at a very affordable cost for customers. And certainly in the patch that I represent in the rural areas, it is the waste service that they want more than the recycling service.
Could I just remind people that please do not speak over other people. It makes it very, very difficult for people to hear and actually make decisions based on what they've heard.
Chair, what I was going to, if the leader would agree, just to, there are some, if that the preamble's okay, and I accept that now. But I mean, it's the bottom bit where it's restricting it to only consider doing the Schedule 2 stuff in charities and catering and small catering. How do you define small catering, for instance? And so I just think that S&R should look at what waste service it can provide in toto. And then I think we probably get a lot more support in the room today.
Trina.
I don't know. I'm on the Strategy and Resources Committee too, and I was at the December meeting where we asked for more information about the trade waste report, and at the January one where I didn't personally feel we got it. I voted a different way to casting vote. But at neither of those meetings, and it might be my memory, do I remember any mention of Schedule 2. And it seems that now that's the heart of this new motion. So it just seems more realistic to me that all we can do as a council procedurally is send this decision back to S&R with a steer. Obviously, we don't want to have a service that costs money. Isn't that simply it? And then S&R can sort it out?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I need that one. I'm used to working a sheepdog at a long distance. So I can shake quite well enough. Absolutely support what Councillor Petrillos has just said there. I think what we've got in front of us actually is a case study in how not to go about a decision-making process. It's quite incredible. It's absolutely clear to local businesses that North Devon Council hasn't really considered their options properly first. And I think we should have done that and done a much better job of it. After all, we're going to be turning around and asking these very same people to contribute to developing a local plan very shortly. How do you think they're going to feel? Financial viability has been made quite a lot of. And that bit just intrigues me a little bit. I'm a private businessman. And what I'm hearing then is that there's an assumption that private business can provide this service considerably cheaper than the local council could. So are we too expensive when we provide other services as well? Or is it just this one we're going to be too expensive if it's increased to the level in which it becomes viable? Let's just be realistic about it. I think most people would have considered, if this had been looked at from a viability point of view and the percentage increases considered to start with, may have looked at this very differently. I like my colleague in front of me, cannot support the motion that was put forward on just the basis of looking at Schedule 2. I think there are a few other options within that, and I think, as Councillor Petrillos said, I'd rather it went back to S&R, was considered properly. And again, and I say again, maybe with a little bit more in the way of information to put there. I do feel a bit like I'm in a surreal parallel universe. Maybe I could be in a Labour cabinet at the moment. We kind of got a leader done most of a U-turn, but not quite. You can provide a bit of I think I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
I've got about 5 more people wanting to speak. Did you want to come back in now, or did you want? Councillor Bushell.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that other members also read the briefing papers, because I believe that in there they said, do not tie the hands of S&R too tightly, allow them to have debate and come to a new decision. I'd also like to say to the businesses that come, thank you for coming along, thank you for making your voices heard. I'm not allowed to be on strategy with the resources because I sit on scrutiny and policy. And scrutiny and policy flagged up exactly the situation that we're in now. And we all voted for it. We sent it to S&R, and we asked S&R to come back to policy before making a decision, because there wasn't enough data. And we understood that South Bolton Town Council, they may have
Found another provider, yeah, but it's a big town.
but it's not going to
Be helping all the people in the outlying parishes. And we as district councillors need to see
the whole of
Devon. We don't want to be Barnstable centric, South Molton centric.
We know
that Devon is a beautiful place. It's like that because of our farmers, because of our Airbnbs, because of our self-catering holidays. So please don't think you haven't been heard, but thank you for raising your petition. I haven't seen this happen before. You guys are right, and we need to rethink what's going on. We need to, as Councillor Clayton says, we need to make sure that the council taxpayer is not paying for this service. And it seems like everybody who's spoken to me are happy to have a raise in price to keep the service.
So I think that I am with open-minded councillors who don't want to tie their hands in S&R.
But it goes back and we say, yes, it's got to be cost neutral, maybe slightly positive, just to make sure that there's a buffer and a fiscal buffer is fair. We do a good job. I think you do a really good job as well. And all of your team. I think in policy, I said all your other recommendations I've gone with. This one, however, we need some more information. You can't win a ball, can you, Mark?
We haven't made recommendations. Sorry.
But I think I'm going to be supporting the open-minded councillors, but not being tied down to Councillor Clayton's very precise wording, because I don't think that allows S&R to express their opinions when they see the new data coming out. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one point of order. We heard earlier about the 1,600 local names that signed the petition. It's good to see that people as far afield as Falkirk, Leighton Buzzard, Nicaragua, they're local people. And obviously we've heard about how people are very satisfied with the service they've had. Presumably those that we were told about previously who weren't happy with it probably haven't come tonight. I'm going to skip a load of what I have prepared because of the way the decision's gone, or it seems to be going. One thing I wanted to address was that I've heard this decision that was taken by Strategy and Resources based on a lot of advice that was given, described as anti-business, and I don't really want to accept that characterisation, because we do have to look at whether services are affordable, sustainable, proportionate, and that's no different to decisions that these business owners have to make on a daily basis. So, for example, if a bar is selling a product that's not popular, but the stock regularly goes to waste, the equipment dispensing is faulty, it's expensive to replace, then that owner might reasonably decide they're going to stop selling that product. They wouldn't be expected to keep on selling it and incurring losses indefinitely simply because a small number of customers object, and that's essentially the position Strategy and Resources members were put in.
But the councillors at the back, please stop talking, because you meaning that people cannot hear what's being said. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's not anti-customer, is it? It's just a rational business decision. And, you know, we've been put in a position where we're being called anti-business, but actually, you know, there've been plenty of councillors who've been happy when sitting on other authorities who have voted for cuts to children's services, to libraries, to social care, but they haven't been characterised as anti-children or anti-education or anti-human being, because context and proportionality and the situation that we're in kind of matters. You know, the fact is most of the businesses affected by the decision, and it may well go a different way, but will be able to provide themselves with an alternative. And it doesn't, you know, we're not them being unhappy doesn't necessarily justify that this council has to maintain an unsustainable service for everyone else. And really, I just want to say, it's sort of been a really unedifying spectacle, I think, of trying to revisit a committee decision over and over again through social media campaigns. It's really disappointing, I think, that councillors have chosen, you know, rather than going with the committee process and the decision-making process, to just plaster their personal views on social media, sort of in a competition to be seen as the most angry or the one who can post on the most community Facebook pages, positioning themselves as campaigners rather than decision makers who could have been involved in the process from the beginning, and sort of blurring the line between genuine scrutiny and just, you know, point scoring, which risks undermining the public confidence in this authority. It just gives the impression that any decision that's made can be overturned by not an evidence-led process, but by who shouts the loudest online. Can we go back over things again and again and again? And I think actually we owe it to residents and businesses to be honest and responsible and open about why decisions are made, which we are being. You know, the report is available, Strategy and Resources Committee agenda is published online, the advice is all there, and just respect the structures that we're expected to operate under rather than just stomping your feet at every decision you don't like.
It's 1917, actually, it was. Sorry, but just correct that information that was in the press. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I didn't have an opportunity to see the motion. Thank you very much. I just to mention to Councillor Tops there, it is nice to have somebody within Braunton Rural who actually stands with this motion. In my time talking across Braunton Rural, I've yet to find anyone else that is of such a mind, but thank you very much for your interest there. I almost feel I should declare an interest. Of course, we've got two excellent Braunton restaurants. I eat at both of them and they are fantastic, but it's interesting that I noticed that as housing lead, one area that I am not popular is well, one of many areas I'm not popular is of course with some of our holiday let owners, and yet I have them reaching out to me saying, why are you doing this? And I noticed some small concession going on for them here, but really, as has been mentioned, it is not enough going on. I think realistically we need to take, as has been said, we need to be taking a far more open-minded Strategy and Resources. The only thing that should be taken off the table is closing and shuttering this service entirely, as has been done to date. We need to be looking at something far more impressive, far more realistic. And it reminds me of something that some of the lead group have said, as well as one of our MPs, I won't say which, and they reminded me of the importance of making tough decisions. And as has been said today, I believe it was Councillor Crabb, there is a tough decision here, but the one thing that is not a tough decision is walking away. Perhaps people will appreciate the irony. But yes, it is a very easy decision to say, we won't do this anymore. We're just going to stop. Because yes, it is difficult. Yes, we do need to provide more resources, more equipment. We need to go back and revisit how Ollie is apparently being billed. I want to know where that's coming from and why he's not paying his dues here. We do need to be looking at all of that. This needs a complete overhaul. 12 months, with respect, don't think is long enough. I think we need to have this as an ongoing project. We're going to hit LGR at some point anyway. We need to have this as an ongoing project. I would say just 24 months going forward. One thing that hasn't been covered, and I do apologise, as I don't have a group, I can't farm any of this chit chat out, and I've kind of been coming up with this on the fly. So the thing that hasn't been mentioned, I'm slightly disappointed, is of course we've had many good businesses here, but what we haven't heard from are the schools and the care homes. Now I know that you'll have to excuse me, my memory is not what it is. 38 North Devon schools use North Devon Trade Waste Services, including several in Braunton. Again, I believe that is covered within the declaration that's already been made. But my children are at one of those schools, and I have many conversations, and I know what the school is currently working through, the administration cost it has had to take on, and the fact that it knows full well it will not get the same excellent quality, thank you, the same cost either. And of course, the service will not be, it's going to disrupt and change things. It is going to take money from teaching my kids. That's where the declaration comes in. It's not just being a Devon County Council. My kids are impoverished. I feel for Ollie. I feel for the, £20,000. Wow, I can't picture what that's like. But my kids are going to lose out on a teacher, staff, resources, because we're walking away. We're making the easy decision here. My phone's turned off. I've chatted for too long already. Let's see. Schools, and of course, so we look at the schools. I know Bronson schools are working very hard, but again, within Bronson School Academy, though, this is one of Councillor Hunt's schools, Marwood, an isolated rural school, not covered by Section 2, Section B, or whatever it is. They're scrabbling around looking for a trade-based partner at the moment, as I understand. Many rural schools will be. Very, very difficult position, and I wish they would get on with teaching. We could also look at the care homes. Again, many care homes, and I haven't got the numbers on this, care homes are also looking for trade-based partners at the moment, and also in many ways can be reliant on North Devon trade-based services. And the one other thing, when it comes to my county hat, of course, when we go back, the trade waste is brought in here, sent down to the fantastic mix and match system we've got going on down there, and then of course it's shipped out. Devon County Council takes it, because we're councils, because they're councils. It's, I believe, and I stand to be corrected, it is going at cost. We are blessed to Southwest Recycling, blessed to Biffa and the others, but we get a good deal, which we are then passing on to our customers. And I would at that point just bring in LGR. We know, I don't think anyone's mentioned LGR. This might be the longest meeting I've been in without a mention of LGR.
Sorry, you're supposed to have 3 minutes to speak.
Right, again, I do apologise, Chair. I will skip LGR if you like, and I do very quickly then. I know you all have a little LGR. One thing from my time on strategy and resources before the last year's election, I remember we talked about green waste. Green waste, again, is something that we don't make a profit on. Every taxpayer in the North Devon, as I understand it, from the last time I remember, we wanted to put the price up to a certain amount.
Councillor Bell, can you sit down, please, because it's you have taken rather a long time.
Big on to fly tipping.
Councillor Lane.
I'm probably a bit like the farmer back there. I can probably speak loud enough. Chairman, I went to the SNR committee meeting in December and said I agreed with stopping the refuge and recycling service. This service has lost nearly 172,000 over the last 4 years at the cost of the council taxpayer. Raising the cost by 25.01% in year 26-27 may break even, but it does not solve the problem. But in year 27-28, there is a projection overspend loss of another 104,000. The cost of providing the service with replacement vehicles and labour and the changes by government has made it not viable. This is not a statutory service, and we should be placing our resources to benefiting our residents. I would say to members, if you was running this as a business, would you allow it to continue at a loss? I do take on the points that have been raised tonight by Councillor Proust and the proposal. And I actually do see now, I think there is some scope here. The reality is we're talking about 25.01%, but in actual fact, if you look at the figures here, which is the trade refuge, in actual fact, if you was to raise it by 6.7%, it would break even for the next financial year. In actual fact, if you look at trade waste, and I think you need to get rid of trade waste, that's the reality of it. You've actually, to break even with the figures here and the projection figures, not 25% won't do it. In actual fact, if you look at the figures for the trade waste alone, you'd have to raise it 81%. So the reality is, trade waste, you want to forget it. But I accept your motion, but I think realistically, I think you need to take on board Councillor Proust's views, because I think that's the way forward. But you need to stop this the trade recycling, and I think we need to work with some of the people, some of the businesses. And I think Mr. Councillor Proust, and if you could adjust your motion, I think you would get good support tonight to move it forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Before we move on, can I just clarify with you that you are saying that it's the trade recycling is not viable?
Trade recycling, the trade recycling, the trade refuge is what aims to recycle. Thank you.
Chair, just a quick point of order. Can I just say that we are talking, Councillor Walker, we are discussing the amendment at the moment, which or part of the amendment, which is the words as discussed by Bev. If that falls for whatever reason, I mean, it shouldn't do because I'm sure all the councillors here have had a very good education. But if it should fall, then we might move on to voting, or to, perhaps Councillor Price will put an amendment in.
Yeah, we are running out of time for our debate. So if I can move on quickly, and could I ask people to be concise, please, so that we can get as many views as possible. Councillor Peter Lever.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things to clarify. First of all, I don't want councillors running away with the impression that North Devon Council Trade Waste Services provides trade waste and recycling collection services for all businesses in North Devon. It's a minority. I think there's about 6,000 businesses in the district, and we served about 1,800 of them, so a minority of those businesses. And to go to Councillor Bell's point about schools, that schools are part of the Schedule 2 collection. So if with Councillor Clayton's motion, they would be included in that discussion. And the third thing is in terms of the new vehicle that Mr. Quintel talked about, I mean, my understanding is that actually we'd need to enter into a 5-year leasing agreement with that. So if we were to go down that line, practically, we couldn't review this service every year. We would make a commitment for 5 years to lose however much money we lost a year. And I think Mr. Seymour made a really good point that if this was run as a business, we are a good council, but we are not a business as a council. We operate under different rules to private sector businesses, and we have to always think about our responsibility to our council taxpayers and our other duties as a council. And we are not in a position where we can take a risk, as a private business might do, on something actually paying for itself in a year or 2 years' time. I think that would be an irresponsible decision for us to make as a council, to continue putting money into something that we, with our best efforts, we've not been able to make financially viable.
Councillor Caroline Lever.
Thank you. So thank you. I don't know what. I do. Okay. Okay. So I'd actually quite like to start out just by actually thanking businesses and the members of the public coming and listening to this debate. This is an extraordinary. Would you like me to use that? Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Is that a bit better?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry for that. Okay. So I wanted to start off by thanking everybody who's coming along today to listen to the debate. This is a highly unusual position we find ourselves in, and as was mentioned by Councillor Tops, actually we run the risk of if this becomes the norm, then actually that gives us a real question about how council make any decisions or how democracy works. So I think there is something about process. I mean, for me, there's a bit of a question, which is if this going on the basis of the 5-year lease, which I think that's right, that one would have to enter into a lease for a number of years. I'm kind of wondering what suggestions the what was people who were referred to as open-minded councillors that 7 years, sorry, 7 years lease, 7 years lease. I'm rather wondering what the suggestions are as to what we should cut to pay for this. Because if I think about the reality of non-statutory services is that we only have funding to pay for non-statutory services because actually this is a well-run council. We have seen, I mean, it's now what, 2026, so I'm now in my 9th year of being a councillor on this council, something like that. And in that time, all I have heard year on year on year on year is cut, cut, cut. And it is the Conservative government that was the last government that started that back in 2010, and that has continued. And actually, if you'd like to let me finish, please, without interrupting me, I would be most grateful. That is the fact, and it's been the same here at District Council, as indeed it has at Council, County Council, as indeed it has across the country. If you cut your budget that you've got to do the statutory services with year on year on year, which is why the County Council cut the link centres, why our hospital is in such a terrible state. They carry on the best as they can, but we have endured as councils across the country, cut after cut after cut after cut. Where we are now is that we're in a position where we have a loss-making service, which is being funded by people who are on every level of income, some high, but an awful lot low. This council has declared a cost of living crisis. We know from the council, the people who come and talk to us, and maybe some councillors don't have people knocking on their door bringing problems. Quite a lot of us do. Actually, why should those people be supporting a service which we do not have to do? That I can see no justification for that. I think what's concerning for me is the idea that the council has got just some wads of cash somewhere that we can just do this stuff. And that if we've got a 7-year commitment, we ain't going to be here in 7 years. So how do we actually square that circle? We do the best that we can is what we do. And what we're looking at is something which is deliverable for a good number of services. And we can't do everything that we want to do. It would be foolish to suggest that we could. So let's try and do what we can and actually look at the amount of work which has gone into trying to find a way to ease the situation for a lot of businesses. Because we do hear. What we don't have is the ability to do everything that we would want to do. If we could, it would be a gold star service to every single business, and no private services would be out there, because we would be the best. So I will be supporting the leader's motion.
Councillor Bassel, can I ask you to come back in at the end? So we put them and go straight to Councillor Jones. Please.
Some of them, yeah, there are members.
You can't make an amendment. Councillor Warden.
Yes. I simply wanted to ask a question, really. The question concerns the difference between what Councillor Prowse was saying and the leader of our council regarding trade waste and Schedule 2, because I think this is actually quite an important issue. And I would like to know the difference it would make to whether we needed an extra lorry, whether we needed to put the prices up more, or what the situation would be. So can we have some clarification of the possible impact of making it trade waste rather than just simply Schedule 2?
If I could just ask Councillor Clayton to answer that specific question, or does
you want to speak first, John?
Thank you, Councillor Warden. Obviously, at the moment, we have 2 trade rounds for the full trade waste service, and obviously the recycling round. If you were just doing Schedule 2, as already alluded to earlier, some of that Schedule 2 waste is picked up by our domestic rounds. So 82% of that already picked up by the domestic refuse lorries and the domestic recycling lorries. The element that's remaining then would need to be picked up by a trade waste round. So if that's only 20% of the remaining Schedule 2 customers, then that would require potentially up to at least 1 round. That would need to be quantified, because of the remaining 152 customers, they potentially could be spread right the way across North Devon. So it wouldn't be a case of all of a sudden you've lost 50% of the business and therefore you lose 50% of the trade waste service. That round potentially might need to service quite a geographical area. It's hard to quantify exactly what it would need in terms of costs. The most important thing would be that we would need to raise the prices in order to make sure the cost was recovered. as we set out at the strategy and resources meeting in January, the options were obviously to cease the service or to put the prices to recover the service. Similarly, if you just wanted to remain with just the domestic refuse elements, which includes Schedule 2, then again, you would need to look to raise the prices in order to recover that cost. It was alluded to at that meeting that potentially could be 7 to 8%. That's based on the existing customer profile. Obviously, if that customer profile has changed, as we've touched on earlier, 20 have already cancelled, but potentially 300 to 400 are already being discussed with other providers and the broker. Therefore, you could be looking potentially at a 20 to 30% reduction of the existing customer base. That happened, then potentially need to raise the prices of the domestic refuse rounds. And again, we can model that in advance of strategy and resources as consideration if members want that.
I probably want to.
Did you want to say something rather than? What about the amendment? You can't, sorry, you can't do that. Councillor Jones, you can't amend the amendment until it's been voted on.
Suspend the amendment.
At the moment, we're in open debate. And what we've got is two motions. We've got the motion put by Councillor Clayton, and then the motion put by Councillor Maskell, which takes the effect as an amendment. You can only have one amendment on the table at one time, so you can't move an amendment at the moment. But if you are of the view that you will be putting forward an amendment later on in the debate, once that first amendment has been disposed of, then you can express that now and give notice that you're going to put a second amendment in place later.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, firstly, a big thank you to all of you that travelled this evening. Big thanks to those of you that have spoken. And a big thanks to Ollie for bringing democracy and doing what was right and bringing the views forward. I actually think social media is quite...
Minutes left.
Okay, I'll get to it.
4 more people wanting to speak.
I'll skip a bit on social media, but I think it's an important tool. Sorry, I think...
Sorry, would you mind? Sorry, talk.
Thank you, Chair. It is frustrating when these things get political, and I want to go back to the very beginning, which was me standing up at full council and expressing concerns in my community, people in Witheridge who were not going to be able to find an alternative supplier, and that still remains the case. They have actually reached out, and some, it's not a huge amount, but there are customers that will not be able to find an alternative supplier, and that was what we were originally talking about. I think it's important to also mention that it is frustrating for rural customers. There's sometimes a feeling that the focus is on our urban areas and not necessarily focused on those in the more rural areas. I think it's important as well that we should look at Mid Devon and Teignbridge Council, very similar to ours, rural areas. Teignbridge is a bit of Dartmoor, very similar to us, coastal area too. Great Lib Dem ran council, and they are successfully running the service. So we should go and have a word with them, I think. The other thing that I just want to bring, in the absence of the chair of the Scrutiny and Policy Committee, that committee did request that the information was looked into carefully, so that before the decision was made, that a full survey was done, an email survey to customers to try and work out what's really going on, find out what they need, find out how this is going to impact them. That will give us a full picture. The other thing that we requested was a detailed analysis of competition. How much are they going to charge? What will the price differences be? What's the reach? Where are the gaps? Who will be affected? I think this is just simple things. And I'd like, when the opportunity comes, to make an amendment of wherever we get to, that before the decision is made, an email survey is done. And I've just done one to 8 different markets, different countries in a few days, and put it all together in a few days in my business. But there's no excuse to do it in North Devon. I think it's really important that we get all the information. So whatever direction this goes in, that will be my amend, that we do a detailed survey, we look at the competition, and you guys can make a decision based on fact.
I just wanted to propose a recorded vote, if that was possible to do now.
Happy to second.
Vote is proposed by councillor Maddox, seconded by councillor Bushell. We take the vote on this. All those in favour of a recorded vote? Yeah, against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Okay, thank you. There will be a recorded vote. Thank you. Councillor Wilson. Yeah.
You. I'm going to be brief because a lot of my points have been covered. I just again want to say thank you to everyone who's come tonight. I represent Ilfracombe. It's not just a rural issue that people cannot get trade waste alternatives. I've heard from businesses in Ilfracombe that have narrow streets that they live up and they can't get a lorry from Biffa or something like that to come up and service their trade waste. So it's something that I'm really concerned about. I managed to speak to quite a few businesses in Ilfracombe myself. It wasn't actually too difficult. I went through the Ilfracombe Business Tourist Association, and I think it's so important that we're listening to businesses. I'm picking up a few points from the people that spoke tonight. Thank you. One of the things that has come out loud and clear is that there's a great deal of respect for North Devon Council for Trade Waste and that people want to pay more. And I just can't, I have to have hope that we can find a way through this. I really want to see the trade waste service retained, particularly the non-recycling trade waste. I just want to see a way through. I want to show that I support local business and I want North Devon Council to show that it supports local businesses because that's what we say we do. I'm concerned about the 300 businesses that are, mentioned as potentially leaving the service, but there doesn't seem to be any guarantee that they have actually got another customer. And I'm also really heartened actually by the process of having this petition. Unlike maybe other councillors here, I think that it's great that there's been a public petition about this, and that we have been able to come back and debate it tonight, and that just gives me a faith in democracy. This is what it's all about. So, yeah, I really hope we can find a way through and retain all of this service. Thank
you. Sorry, Councillor Bullard, you haven't had a chance to speak, so if you'd like to speak, guys.
Thank you for letting me speak. First of all, I want to say what a good job our boys picking up recycling do. But following on from what Councillor Jones said, and Councillor Bush mentioned it as well, this was brought to us at Scrutiny and Policy Committee. Scrutiny to us is quite an important thing to do. And at that meeting, the presentation was given. They didn't seem to be aware of what the competition would be charging. And we asked them to go back and find out more information of actually what the commercial firms are charging and could we match that and go beyond it. And we also asked for a full consultation. Now, to me, 20 businesses is not a full consultation with businesses involved in this. And I think if it goes back to SNR, Statutory Resources, both those issues should be discussed in detail because I don't think they were at Statutory Resources meeting when this decision was made. And I think it's important to get the full facts in front of us. And I have to say I'm a bit disappointed that some speakers have brought this political issue. This is not a political issue. We represent residents across all our wards. I represent a rural ward where I have got businesses very concerned about this, small businesses, and I'm representing them.
Great. I don't know if this is working or not, so I just shout. Our hour of debate has come to an end.
So I would like to just read out the amendment that we will be voting on first. And the amendment as suggested, as proposed by Councillor Maskell.
Not sum up.
Do you want her to speak?
Yes, are we allowed to let the leader sum up and speak?
Well,
Some up.
Well, at the start of this debate, the chair asked members to waive standing orders, which currently provide in the petition scheme that the debate on a petition should last for 30 minutes. She asked members to approve to extend that to 60 minutes, and that 60 minutes is now up.
Propose for 1.5 hours.
I'm sorry, it can't come back for another amendment to standing orders to the same meeting. You only get one chance at that.
That's my understanding.
So, would you like me to read out the amendment before we vote on it? The amendment to the proposal is that council asks S&R to review their decision in light of updating pricing information. The council asks S&R to consider retaining the service, which is both for trade waste and recycling, for a minimum 12-month period based on a new charging structure that will be at least cost neutral to the council. That the lead member prepares a regular report on the finances and progress of the improvements.
Point of order. We gave notice of a second amendment. Are we still allowed?
Yeah.
Because how people vote on this first amendment would be predicated on whether there's going to be a second one, which is that we refer back and look at the range of trade waste, but accept that the recycling service would be.
Monitoring officer on that.
Yes.
The Constitution says that if an amendment is not carried, then other amendments to the original motion can be moved.
I was just worried about can the amendment, even if it stands, not be amended? Yeah, it becomes the substantive, so then it can be amended again.
The amendment will now be put. You'll be asked to vote on that. If that amendment is carried, then that becomes the substantive motion. You can then carry on amending that if you like, but you can only have one amendment on the table at any one time. And in relation to the 60 minutes, that's 60 minutes for debate. We're now into the voting. So that's all.
Okay, so all those in favour of it's a recorded vote. So I can pass over.
Point of order. I mean, you're saying what Councillor Boone is here, but shouldn't you also refer to the amendment?
No, because we're voting on the amendment bit.
Yeah, but do they know what the amendment is? Because there's all this.
Let's refer to that at all. The amendment is out.
This is the amendment I've just read out, which I will read out. It's not. Right, I'll read it out again. Yeah. Okay, so the amendment. What we are voting on at the moment is for this to become the substantive motion. So the council asks S&R to review their decision in light of updated pricing information. But the council asks S&R to consider retaining service, both the recycling and trade waste service, for a minimum 12-month period based on a new charging structure that will be at least cost neutral to the council. But the lead member prepares a regular report on the finances and progress of the improvements. That is the amendment, which, if it is passed, will become a substantive motion. So we are going to take a recorded vote on this. So I will pass over to our clerk.
Quick point of order, if you don't mind, just for clarity. Thank you. I'm just going through the Constitution. Sorry, I'm loud enough on it. Just going through the Constitution, I can't find anything that disallows a further extension within the. It does, you know, it doesn't make specific reference to extending the meeting once. Yes, but there isn't anything that disallows. I mean, I think this is for. I now know 1,800 companies, a very, very important thing, as well as the employees of those companies.
Sorry, Councillor Bell.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Councillor Bell. Can we just, for a start, it's 1,520 companies, not 1,800 companies.
I do apologise to 180 companies that I've cut off.
Councillor Bell, please could you stop arguing against me whilst I'm trying to talk? Thank you. I am the chair of this meeting, not you. Okay, so we have allowed a suspension of standing orders to allow 1 hour's debate. That is what we allowed. And I think that is, we have reached the end of that hour. We need to move to the vote. I mean, otherwise we'll all get locked in. So, if we can please have a recorded vote on the amendment as I have read out twice now. And I will pass over to our clerk to do that.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll read the names out in alphabetical order. If you could please indicate whether you're voting for, against, or abstained. Starting with Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Bullard.
For.
Councillor Bushell. Councillor Khan.
Against.
Councillor Clayton.
Again.
Councillor Coombs.
Again.
Councillor Crabb. Councillor Dawson.
Against.
Councillor Hayworth Booth.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
Against.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Youssef. Councillor David Knight.
Against.
Councillor Ricky Knight.
Against.
Councillor Lane.
Again.
Councillor Caroline Lever.
Again.
Councillor Peter Lever.
Against.
Councillor Leatherby.
For.
Councillor Lovering.
Again.
Councillor Maddox.
For.
Councillor Maskell.
For.
Councillor Milton.
For.
Councillor Norman. Councillor Orange.
Again.
Councillor Petrinos.
For.
Councillor Prowse.
For.
Councillor Quinn. Councillor Tops.
Against.
Councillor Turton.
For.
Councillor Walker. Councillor Whitehead.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor Warden.
Against.
Councillor York.
Again.
There's 16 votes for and 19 votes against, therefore that is lost, Chair.
Chair, can I move my amendment and ask if the move of the original motion would take it on board? And we refer back and look and consider on Monday the continuation of the waste service as a whole, rather than just the restrictive.
So Councillor Prowse's amendment is to refer the trade waste service, not the recycling service, but just the household waste service, back to strategy resources to be considered as a whole service. So not household type waste, trade refuse, not household waste, just to be clear.
Thank you. Yes, I think we could accept that. That doesn't say I agree with it, but we can discuss it further as SNR, which is right and proper. And one quick reason why I think it would be wrong to do that is that if we just accept trade waste without the recycling, you've got to think about those businesses that have both. Yeah. What they're going to be doing, they're going to put some of the recycling, I'm not saying all of them, but into the trade waste. Then we'll have to employ more personnel to go and do spot checks. We'll have to have weight machines put into the back of lorries.
Yeah, I tried to extend it.
I'm talking to the amendment, that's in the constitution if you read it properly. We have to have weight machines, so there's a whole range of things to actually look at it. But I'm quite happy to accept.
So, Chair, what is the point of our meeting tonight? I thought, the idea of tonight was actually to say this is what the council feel as a whole. Strategy and resources can't make a different decision from tonight, can they? Otherwise, the whole council will lose confidence in this process.
If the amendment is carried, it will be for SNR to look at the whole range, as this was to look at Schedule 2, but you've extended to trade waste, so it could still go against what you want here. It could still just go for Schedule 2, which I think would be the most beneficial thing. But to give the interests of democracy full ability to discuss this at SNR, I think that's right and proper. But it's not to say that I agree with what you said, but I will allow the
the amendment to go through, but I think that's only right and wrong.
In answer to Councillor Prowse's comment, we have a committee system, and Strategy and Resources is the committee that is responsible for this sort of decision. So, looking back to the cabinet system, then that would be the way to go.
Yeah. Can I just clarify then? Because at the moment we've got a substantive motion, which is this one, and Councillor Prowse has put forward an amendment to that. But is the leader taking on board that amendment as part of this substantive motion? And it's important to clarify that because it determines how we have votes and then the further amendments.
Yeah. And the amendment, can we just read out again? The amendment was?
My recollection, Councillor Prowse will, I'm sure, jump in and tell me different, but my recollection was that Councillor Prowse is putting forward that the change to that substantive motion is that Strategy and Resources Committee are asked to look at this again with a recommendation that we look again at the viability of continuing to provide a trade waste collection service on a full cost recovery basis as a minimum.
I'm happy to go with a recommendation for S&R to actually discuss it again, but not for the full council to recommend that that is what is being done.
No, my understanding is.
Council recommends strategy. I mean, that's all I'm asking, is that council recommend.
Hey, look again.
The decision will be taken by Strategy and Resources, but the recommendation, and full council can make recommendations to Strategy and Resources, so it can give that steer, if you like, to Strategy and Resources Committee. The recommendation to Strategy and Resources Committee will be to look again at the viability of continuing to provide a trade waste collection service on a full cost recovery basis as a minimum. If the mover of the substantive motion, Councillor Clayton, and I can't remember, forgive me, who seconded it, are happy to take that on board as part of that motion, then that becomes the substantive motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Councillor Clayton is happy that that has been changed as per Councillor Prowse's amendment, so we move to the vote.
I'd like to make an amendment, please. I did my hand up for some time. Yes. I'd like to make an amendment that this decision is taken by full council. I believe it has a far wider ranging thing. If I don't get a seconder, I don't get a seconder. That's what I feel. I think it's a big issue. I think full council should be listened to, and it doesn't feel like the leader is listening to full council.
It's not in the constitution to do that.
The council's So the council's petition scheme states that if this is an issue on which Strategy and Resources are required to take its final decision, then the council will decide whether to make recommendations to inform that decision, and that's exactly what that motion is doing. The motion to have the decision taken at full council would go against that petition scheme.
Yeah. Councillor Jones, you've got another amendment.
Yes, just on the point that I raised earlier, I'd like to add the amendment that based on the recommendations of the Scrutiny and Policy Committee, that we, when this does go back to S&R, that there is a full review of the customers, as I described earlier, so full email review, and also that there is a full detailed analysis.
Monday.
It's next week.
Monday.
It's Monday, and it doesn't fulfil the constitution regarding petitions. It has to just go back to Strategy and Resources as in the motion.
Surely you can make that as an amendment.
Yeah, sorry, please move to the vote. And it will be a recorded vote here.
I still want to make that amendment. Just have a second.
Happy to second.
Thank you.
Right.
Just before we take the vote on that amendment, there is a very practical problem with that, in that to try and speed up the decision-making process so that we have clarity in advance of the budget setting, which you have to do in February. We have placed on the agenda for Strategy and Resources Committee on Monday the reconsideration of this item, so that there's clarity for businesses, there's clarity for the council in the way we're going forward. Practically speaking, we will not be able to achieve what you're talking about in advance of Monday.
I did the survey in one day. So if you email it tomorrow morning, email recipients respond immediately. So you will get a response. I promise. I promise that will work.
It's my day job. If members have put in that amendment, and that's seconded, then obviously it goes to the vote. But on strategy and resources on Monday, we can only present the information that we have. And if we don't have that information in full, it won't be a full consultation, then we can only present what we've got.
We have seconded the amendment,
Madam Chair, is this also recorded?
Yeah.
Could you read that amendment out? Because I don't.
I am ready. James, can you say it in words of one syllable so I can write it down?
Yes, it was the recommendations of the scrutiny policy committee to look at to do a survey to customers to find out what their current position is and their reflection on what's being recommended.
And councillors.
And it was also a detailed look, which I believe has already been done to some degree, at what the competition is doing, what the pricing is, and where the gaps are.
It's impractical. We can give it a go, surely, Mum.
It's not going to make decisions on Monday.
Give it a go. Any data is good data, surely.
Months ago, it could have been done, but not by Monday.
The difficulty I can envisage in part of that, we can email customers out and ask them what their current position is and their views on the current District Council Tradeways Service. I think you also said to find out about the pricing structure of competitors. We cannot find that information out because other competitors charge different prices for different organisations and different areas of the councils, and it's incredibly difficult. We will not be able to ring up as North Devon Council and ask Biffa what they would be charging a business in Linton or Barnstable. They will not provide that information.
Yeah, it's been proposed, it's been seconded, let's move to the.
Yeah. Okay, so it is a recorded, no, we're moving to the vote now.
We just need to make sure which thing we're voting on.
Are you?
Practical,
but
how to stop it.
Yeah.
Yes, so just for clarity, if it was the original recommendation, I think the information was important. And if everyone is being quite strong to the point it's no longer possible, so I'll drop it. But I think it is a reflection of making decisions in the future. We have to have all the information to go. But I'll drop it from this point.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Okay, so we're now moving to the substantive motion, which is council recognises that it cannot continue to run a loss-making trade waste and recycling collection service subsidised by ordinary council taxpayers. It also recognises that the changes brought in by the government as part of the simpler recycling rules will make the service even more unviable. At the same time, council understands the pressures faced, for example, by charities and small-scale holiday accommodation providers. Council recommends that strategy and resources provide, can you correct me if I get this wrong, please, Councillor Pratt, that strategy and resources look again at the viability of continuing to provide a commercial, what was the trade waste collection service on a full cost recovery basis as a minimum. So, okay, so if we can move to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Starting with Councillor Bell, please.
Councillor Bell.
Councillor Bell, please.
Abstain.
Councillor Bullard.
Again.
Councillor Bushell.
For.
Councillor Cann.
For.
Councillor Clayton.
For.
Councillor Coombs.
For.
Councillor Crabb.
Against.
Councillor Dawson.
For.
Councillor Hayworth Booth.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
For.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Youssef. Councillor David Knight.
For.
Councillor Ricky Knight.
For.
Councillor Lane.
For.
Councillor Caroline Lever.
For.
Councillor Peter Lever. Councillor Leatherby.
For.
Councillor Lovering.
For.
Councillor Maddox.
For.
Councillor Maskell.
Against.
Councillor Milton.
For.
Councillor Norman,
For.
Councillor Orange, Councillor Petrinos,
For.
Councillor Prowse, Councillor Quinn,
Yes.
Councillor Tops,
For.
Councillor Turson, Councillor Walker, Councillor Whitehead,
Against.
Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Warden, Councillor York. That's 28 votes in favour and 6 votes against. Therefore, that's carried, Chair.
Could I thank members of the public for attending? It is very good to see people at our meetings. Sorry. No, you can't. I'm very sorry. Under our council rules, you can't speak at this point. I'd like to thank all the members. I would like to thank all members of the public for coming and attending, and for our councillors to have given this such good research into this. I now know an awful lot more about waste and recycling than I ever thought I would. So I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you.